"You have 3 days to leave." She said it like it was a joke. But no one laughed, not Mom, not Dad, and certainly not me. "Hi, my name is Clara Whitmore. I'm 34 years old. I'm a freelance interior designer." Quiet. Practical, the kind of person who keeps the lights on while everyone else argues about the paint color. I live in the house I saved. 3 years ago, that house was one letter away from foreclosure. Now it's mine, legally, financially, emotionally. But tonight, over rosemary chicken and overpriced red wine, my older sister Savannah looked me straight in the eye and said, "You have 3 days to leave." Mom looked down at her plate. Dad reached for the salt, and I reached for my water. I sipped, let the silence steep. Because unlike them, I wasn't caught off guard. I had been waiting for this moment. I just didn't think it would arrive dressed in linen and perfumed with fake forgiveness. 3 years ago, things started unraveling. Dad lost his pension in a bad investment scheme. Mom's health took a turn, doctor visits, tests, prescriptions we couldn't pronounce. And then came the letters. From the bank, each one colder than the last. Foreclosure, repossession, final notice. They didn't talk about it. They let the envelopes pile up by the hallway table, unopened like old magazines. And I picked them up. No one asked me to, no one had to, I just did. I refinanced the mortgage under my name. I maxed out every credit card I had, took every job that came my way. Virtual staging for rental units, color consultations for dog spas, even Airbnb redesigns I'd never get to see in person. Some nights I fell asleep with blueprints under my cheek. Some mornings I cried in the shower because the electric bill had bounced again. But the house stayed warm. The roof stopped leaking. The basement mold was treated. And the letters from the bank, they stopped coming. We never talked about it. They never said thank you. They just lived, as if the storm had passed on its own. One afternoon, Mr. Mark, the neighbor across the street, waved at me while I was dragging mulch bags from my trunk. He chuckled and said, "Funny thing, Clara, I always see you out here sweating in the yard, but from the outside. Your family looks like they're on vacation year-round." I laughed, but I felt that one, because that's what I was. Not the daughter, not the sister. Just the safety net they didn't even realize they were standing on. She came back like she never left. No warning, no call, just the sound of wheels on tile and a chirpy, "Hey, ye just need a quick reset. Hope that's okay." She hadn't stepped foot in the house for 4 years. Not for Mom's surgery, not for Dad's job loss, not for any of it. But now she was here, with designer luggage. A glow up from whatever spiritual retreat or influencer gig she'd just finished. And somehow the house shifted for her, like it always did. Mom lit up like prom night. Dad scrambled to grab her bags. She kissed both their cheeks like she was returning from a peacekeeping mission, not years of silence. She didn't hug me. She didn't even look at me. She walked straight past and claimed the master bedroom, the room I'd been sleeping in for the past 3 years, said she needed space to heal. I moved into the guest room without complaint. Same as always. Let her redecorate the kitchen. Let her rearrange the living room for better energy. Let her swap out the spices and hide the cast iron pans I actually used. "It's all just about flow," she said. "No offense, Clara." None taken, I just smiled. And started documenting, because this wasn't new. Savannah had always been the sun in every room, and I'd been expected to orbit quietly around her. What stung wasn't her presence. It was how quickly everyone bent back into formation. Like she was the missing piece we'd all been holding our breath for. Even Mr. Mark noticed. A few days after her return, he waved me over while I was trimming the hedges. "Your sister back for good?" he asked. "Can't say," I replied. He grinned. "Well, she sure acts like she owns the place." I didn't answer, just went back to pruning. Because what do you say to that? When you do own the place. But no one seems to care. It started with the curtains. She swapped the heavy linen ones I'd hemmed by hand for gauzy white panels that barely blocked the light. Said it made the space more breathable. Then it was the artwork. My grandmother's framed cross-stitch got replaced by some abstract sunburst print she bought online. She didn't ask, just did it, like she was rearranging furniture in an Airbnb she'd overpaid for. She detoxed the pantry next, threw out the canned soup I'd stocked during flu season, replaced everything with glass jars of chia seeds, medicinal teas, and seaweed snacks no one ever touched. "It's just good energy," she smiled. "You'll feel it eventually." I didn't argue, I didn't roll my eyes, I just took notes. Like a quiet archaeologist collecting artifacts before they were buried, I kept a folder, wrote down dates, photographed changes, saved receipts, labeled everything like I was building a museum of someone else's version of home. And then came the moment that told me everything I needed to know. One evening, I walked past the sliding back door. Mom and Savannah were sitting outside, sipping wine, just the two of them. Savannah leaned back, swirling her glass, and said, "Clara's just stuck. She clings to things. It's like she thinks the house is her personality or something. I mean, she's had her time. Maybe it's time she grew up and moved out." Mom didn't flinch, didn't say, "That's not fair," didn't defend me at all. She just replied, "She's tired. She holds on to this place like it's all she has." What they didn't know, what they never even thought to consider, was that I was standing just inside the screen door, hearing every word, and I didn't storm out, didn't cry, didn't make a scene. I walked upstairs, opened my laptop, and saved the audio file, labeled it Back Porch 9, 17 p.m. Not out of spite, not to start a war, but because deep down I knew the people I was protecting this house from were already living inside it. It showed up on a Tuesday. Subject line, just a thought. No context, no greeting, just Savannah being Savannah. "Hey sis, just thinking, would you ever consider transferring ownership of the house back to mom and dad? I really think it might help restore the balance around here." No pressure, of course, just feels like it'd bring more harmony into the space. Harmony, that was her word for it, undoing 3 years of sacrifice. Erasing legal ownership with a heart emoji. Tying my name to imbalance, like I was the toxin in the home I had rebuilt from ash. I didn't respond. I didn't scream. I didn't even blink. I downloaded the email, saved it to a new folder on my desktop called Defense. Inside that folder were the photos, the renovation receipts, the refinancing paperwork, the insurance transfers, and now her request to hand it all back. I sat staring at the screen for a full minute, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat, like it was waiting for me to say something, to do something. And all I could think was, I don't know what hurt more, the suggestion or the smiley face that came with it. She didn't see it as betrayal, she saw it as balance, but I knew better. This wasn't a request, it was a performance. And I wasn't going to be the one who forgot my lines. The rosemary chicken was slightly overcooked. The wine? A 2017 cab they'd been saving for special occasions. Apparently, this qualified. Savannah poured generously into everyone's glass but mine. Mom complimented the seasoning, Dad asked for the salt, and no one, absolutely no one, looked at me. Then she said it. "You have 3 days to leave." Just like that, dropped between bites of lemon tart like it was a garnish. Like I was the only one in the room who hadn't read the script. Mom kept eating. Dad cleared his throat. I didn't speak. I didn't flinch. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. Thick, heavy, legal-grade silence. I placed it on the table beside my untouched plate, opened it slowly, deliberately. Inside, the deed with my name as sole owner. Mortgage payoff confirmation. Refinancing agreement. That sweet little email from Savannah, complete with timestamp and metadata. And finally, a printed letter from my attorney, highlighted in yellow. Any coordinated attempt to coerce or displace the legal homeowner without consent may constitute civil fraud under Section 32505. I didn't raise my voice, didn't look for drama. I simply looked up. Savannah's smile cracked. Mom's fork slipped against the plate. Dad leaned back like someone had thinned the air around him. No one spoke, so I did. "Dinner was lovely," I said softly. "I'll get started on the dishes." And then I stood, picked up my plate, still full, and walked calmly to the kitchen. Behind me, the silence wasn't just awkward, it was shifting, like something sacred had just been broken. Not with a scream, but with the sound of truth landing on porcelain. By morning, the house was quieter than it had ever been. No shouting, no confrontation, just the soft succession of 3 front door clicks. First Savannah, then Mom, then Dad, no goodbyes, no guilt. Just the sound of suitcases rolling down the gravel path and silence settling into the floorboards like dust. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. I sat down in the armchair by the window, the one Savannah used to call the best light for skin tone. The sun still streamed through like it always had. Only now, no one was trying to steal it. That afternoon, I started reclaiming. I put the cast iron pans back where they belonged. Rearranged the spices how I liked them, cumin first, always. Tossed the unopened imported teas she never drank. Wiped down the kitchen tiles until they shone without effort. Then came the hallway. Family photos lined the wall, graduations, birthdays, Savannah's yoga retreat. I didn't smash them, didn't burn them. I took each one down carefully, wiped the glass, and placed them into a cardboard box. On the side, I wrote in black marker, "Memories not alter." Later, I picked up my phone, scrolled past unread messages, voicemails I didn't feel like listening to, stopped on one name. Elise, I dialed. "Hey," I said when she picked up. "This weekend, you still up for that movie?" There was a pause, then her voice warm, familiar, real. "Always." It came in a plain white envelope, no return address, postmarked from the city. But I recognized the handwriting immediately. Mom's loopy cursive, neat and deliberate like she'd practiced. Inside were 2 pages, no crossouts, no tear stains, just her version of closure. "We forgive you, Clara, for making everything legal, for turning into someone we no longer recognize." She wrote that Savannah was doing her best, that the apartment was tight but manageable, that she hoped one day I'd find softness again. Softness. As if boundaries were brutality, as if survival made me cruel, I folded the letter. Once, twice, dropped it into the bin beside the recycling, not out of anger, not for drama, just because I didn't need it. I whispered more to the quiet than to anyone else. "You never asked what I needed, Mom, not once." 4 weeks later, I saw the headline by accident. Wellness influencer Savannah Whitmore faces legal backlash over family property dispute. Apparently, someone had found the case file. Public records do that. Sponsors pulled out. One brand issued a vague statement about reevaluating partnerships. Comment sections lit up with words like entitled, leech, and karma. People were talking. I didn't share it, didn't comment, didn't send it to anyone, not even Elise. I just closed the laptop, slipped on my gardening gloves, and stepped outside. The lavender had started blooming again, soft purple tips pushing through the late spring soil. I leaned in, clipped the new stalks gently. Inhaled, it didn't smell like before, less sharp, less bitter, sweeter somehow. Like something had loosened in the air itself, like the house had finally exhaled. And for the first time, I realized peace doesn't come because they left. It comes because I stayed. I saw him last week. Dad. Parked outside the lumberyard in town, hands resting on the steering wheel, radio off, eyes unfocused. For a second, I almost tapped the window, almost waved, almost asked if he was okay. But I didn't. I just watched him for a moment. A man who once handed me a house-sized burden and called it survival. Then I drove away. No anger, no ache, just distance. Clean and quiet. I've been working again, by choice, not necessity. A client in Taos hired me to design a guest cabin. Simple, intentional, full of light. The kind of place that doesn't need to prove anything to feel whole. While measuring windows, a woman passed by with her dog. She looked at me for a moment and said, "You look like someone who doesn't owe anyone anything." I didn't answer, just smiled, because she was right. Later that week, while organizing the hallway closet, I found one of Mom's old ceramic bowls, the one she used for lemons. Hairline crack along the rim, still usable. I filled it with lavender and placed it on the kitchen table, right where she used to leave the mail. No ceremony, no symbolism, just enough. I didn't burn the house down. I just closed the door and opened the window.